Hello, and welcome to another episode of Soul Guided with Sookton. I am your host, Suki Eleuterio, and this is the podcast where we discuss all the topics that are near and dear to the expansion and evolution of your soul. I am very excited today to have a special guest with me. Her name is Julia Phoenix. She is a leadership and liberation mentor, and she and I met when we participated in a summit together last week on Facebook, which was really awesome. It was a summit full of healers and light workers. I saw Julia's video where she was doing some of these voice activations that we're going to talk about a little bit today, and I was just so excited to feel the presence and energy of somebody that's in my soul tribe. I believe we all have people that we meet in this life that we're cut from the same cloth. And I really felt she and I were cut from the same cloth. We're here to do big, powerful things in the world. And I really welcome you and honor you here as a sister to be part of this show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, we do have this resonance that feels really good. So I'm just excited that we're aligning to do this.
Yay, exactly. So part of the things that drew me towards you and was very interesting and activating for me was hearing you kind of move into this voice DNA activation. Can you speak a little bit
Mhm.
about what you do and how you do it, and then also maybe about how you came to doing what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's quite a journey because it wasn't like I just started out in business and was like, I'm gonna create a DNA activation. But no, it's been it's been through different iterations. And I've been in business as a coach and as a healer for about 8 years now. Um, since 2015. But, you know, as we expand, as we awaken, as we go through our own activations, our own DNA activations, and our own process, new gifts start kind of pulling through. And it's like, this is a really interesting thing because I find this to be the case actually for a lot of female entrepreneurs that I work with. Is like these gifts are kind of coming through. They're wanting to, they're like, oh, I just wanted to like make these weird hand movements while I was doing my session or whatever, but I didn't do it because it's weird or, what is that? What even is that? So it started flowing through me, this particular way of using my voice. A couple years ago, you know, seriously, but it probably the first time was, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago, something like that. But I really came up against it, in my process of how do I bring this forward professionally. But I've been doing it professionally for about a year. Um, and it's something that is, it works on levels that it's sort of hard to talk about and pin down. I'm sure you're used to like the limitation of language, but it is channeled. It's not channeled from, I would say a ton of guides and beings outside of myself. It's really the language of my soul, multidimensionally. So I channel different aspects of my consciousness, of my soul, who have healing codes and capacities to, wake up, to clear certain things, to move energy in people's peems and their chakras and their cells, and also to wake up light strand DNA.
I mean, you're just really speaking my language. So, a similar thing happened to me as far as starting to do things where you're saying, I'm not really sure why I'm doing this, but I feel like this is what I need to do with the
Yeah.
client, or this is what I need to do with myself. And one of those things was light code activation, drawing
Mhm.
light codes, where there is no right or wrong way to draw a light code if you feel inspired to draw light codes, because if they're coming through you, they're coming through in a certain language, right? That's your language that's unique to you. So I really hear what you're
Yes.
saying with this is something that's coming from my soul,
Yeah.
which I think can be hard for for people sometimes to understand. Where is this actually coming from? Is this real? Is this a strange? Maybe I can't talk to people about this. Maybe this
Yes.
I feel shame around it or something like that, around expressing it. And then along with what you were sharing, it made me realize, these codes, you call them codes, I call them codes as well. I feel that each of us come into this world having a certain set of codes that we're supposed to impart to others as far as messages for others. And I think for some of us who are slightly more in the realms of the telepathic, which is why you said that language was limiting, because I
Yeah.
completely understand that. It's like the language can only take you so far because the consciousness is so much bigger than that. It's so much vaster than that. So when you then translate it into English, into English or into human language, it becomes different. But what would you say to people who are starting to experience, and this is what happens when you start having collective awakenings, you're starting to experience things that are strange, but are making them feel connected to spirit, feel connected to
Mhm.
their higher being. What would you say to somebody who's kind of like at the beginning of that journey?
Yeah, at the very beginning. I mean, I do think that actually, I know for me, finding people, finding communities where I could actually get mirroring and reflection around what was happening was really important. You know what I mean? So if your friends don't understand, if like your family doesn't understand, like, you know, going to sort resources online, places online where you can kind of be like, hey, post a picture like I drew this thing, like does anybody feel like this is anything, like I feel scared about it or I feel kind of weird about it or whatever, because getting that input from others really did help me to be like, oh, this is not something to be afraid of. This is not something that is weird. This is something really powerful and pure and beautiful. It's coming through me for a reason. And that's what I would say to remember, like, it's coming through for a reason. There's this verse in the Bible that's like coming up, and I don't know the exact wording, but it's basically like what you do not bring forward, like from within you, will destroy you. But what you do bring forward from within you, it's something like it will. I can't remember. It'll basically give you the world. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
but if you don't bring it forward, it's like it can destroy it. And that's also not to imprint any fear in anyone or strengthen that at all. But and it's not like you have to come forward with it in a big way right away. Not at all. Like it is okay. This is what I did. It is okay to take your time exploring the experience and just communing with it, getting that mirroring and reflection, like refining what it is that's happening, understanding what it is that's happening and what it does for people, what it does for yourself, building that confidence slowly to potentially bring it out into the world.
So it's interesting because when we first started chatting here, I just really felt a strong pull for us to chat a little bit about like kind of owning your spiritual gifts. And
Yeah.
I love that, that you are in the realm of leadership as well, because when you take yourself into a space of leadership, you start to have this kind of, I call it a divine responsibility. There's a divine
Mhm.
responsibility, right, for you to kind of take some of these gifts that you naturally have that other people do not have. One of the things that I noticed that I recognize about myself, I was telling you about my throat chakra. Um, it's taken me years to get to the point to feel comfortable to talk
Yes.
more deeply about the things that I have to talk about. It was easier for me to talk superficially or to talk about light-hearted things. Oh, let me talk about the weather. Oh, let me talk about pop culture, um, because that was easier for me. And then to get into this more deeper ancestral, and that's one of the things we were going to talk about too,
Mhm.
ancestral and more painful uh, activations within myself and go through them myself first, be able to
Mhm.
express them for me and not for anyone else, not for performance or not for reward or not for
Yes.
recognition, but simply just to express it. What would you say to people who are moving through that now, where they're recognizing that there is a gift? Maybe they have an ability to channel. maybe they are
Mm.
connected to some spiritual gifts. And how do they take it from basically something that they might do for themselves or that they recognize within themselves and take it into the space of leadership and into the space of sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I do feel like it can be really powerful to have mentors at that phase of development. Like I've had people, that are leaders that, have led me through that process of like, okay, like here's some steps for you. Like I'm with you during this process. This is, what it can look like, kind of a thing when you're feeling really ready to take some of those steps. But also, it's like, again, I think sometimes people have this really black or white type of a thing where it's like, I'm going to leap forward, like, and cut the ribbon. And like, here I am, world, like in this really big way, right? Like, I'm going to tour the world doing that, or like I'm going to hide in my room. And it's like, there's a lot of in between. If you're not feeling safe, for example, if you're not feeling safe, bringing the work you're doing with like codes into your public, Facebook page or public Instagram, you can create a private group, and you can share there. So it's like there are these kind of stepping stones. And each time that work on somebody and you get a positive response, each time that you share your gift, you're building, not only are you refining and strengthening the gift itself, but you're building your confidence and power. You're seeing how much it's needed, how much it's actually helping people. If I didn't have so much feedback from people that I was working with behind the scenes, not talking about this publicly at all, that were like, holy like my life changed, I wouldn't necessarily, like, maybe I'd still be like hiding it. Maybe I wouldn't have brought it forward in such a massive public way.
No, I love that, and I did pick a card for us because 'cause I've been doing that
uh,
lately on my interviews, but before I get to the card, I did wanna touch on the stuff we were talking about before we jumped on the real podcast, around ancestral, the ancestral wounds and kind of
mhm.
how, part of the spiritual gift is also to break some of these patterns that are being passed down the lines and that are keeping us stuck or keeping us
Yes.
away from, the path that we really need to be on. So what have you found around this ancestral part of the work that you do?
Oh my gosh, it's huge. It's huge. And I do, I work with like past lives and contracts and all kinds of things, but ancestral pieces can be really, really big. And especially if they're also delivered like familially, like, in this incarnation, we had direct experiences with family members that felt and thought a certain way. But even if we didn't, like, there's literally memory in our cells. Like, our DNA contains gifts from our lineage, but also a lot of, imprints of things that, we might have chosen into the particular line that we did in order to transmute, actually. So, for example, like I have German Jewish ancestry, and I mean, there's a lot I can say about that. I also have ancestors on the other side who are German Lutheran. And there's a lot of stuff that you just kind of inherit that can show up as programming. It's not conscious, but it can impact us, especially as entrepreneurs. I know we were talking about, and I'm really specifically interested a lot in this, is like, I mean, this can be relationship patterns, it can be all kinds of things, but patterns around suffering, patterns around survival, scarcity, things that we could even look around sometimes in our lives and say, you know what, it's actually not necessary for me to do that anymore or to live that way anymore. But what is this thing in me that, like, I keep finding myself back in this place? A lot of the time there's some ancestral work that can be done that can really unwind that for people. I'm sure you found that as well.
I absolutely. One of the things that I've been working on, as I was telling you about with around burnout, was and it's linked um, into the pattern and process of high achieving, perfectionism,
Mhm.
being the best, doing the best that you can do, striving for success at all turns, and hard work. And
Yes.
once I discovered that it was a survival wound, that it was around surviving, because in order to survive, you'd have to do the best that you could do and be the best that you could be. That was really powerful for me personally because I had to work through it
Mm,
myself and then realize, yes, I've had a lot of women in my family who would be in that role, that perfectionist, high achieving role.
yes.
Outwardly, they would have appeared very successful or powerful, but inwardly, they were
Yeah.
feeling very disconnected. So this is the pattern that I came here to break.
Hmm.
And in breaking it within myself, I can help others. But this is the card that I picked first, which I think is very perfect. It says open. Say
Ah,
yes, expand through the extremes, and trust life. So what does this one bring up for
ooh,
you? And I love that if you're just listening on the podcast, the pictures of a woman with her hands behind her head, and her elbows kind of out to the side, looking up to the sky. She's surrounded by roses and petals and blooming, and it's kind of everything's opening around her.
I love this. This is actually perfect for me right now. I'm like, oh man, I need that reminder because it's hard to stay open to life a lot of the time, when, especially if we're operating in like kind of fear-based distortions from wherever they come from. Like, it's it's also not practiced by a lot of people around us potentially. Like, I mean, I would say just in general, it hasn't been for the last couple thousands of years like the practice of openness, which is a feminine principle, which is a feminine way of being, has not been valued, has not been modeled to us. It's been a lot more about tightness, contraction, rigidity, control, and this shows up in our bodies, in our lives, in our businesses, every area, right? And so it's sort of like a form of letting go, but it's less of letting go. It's such a beautiful frequency of just trust and allowing ourselves to be kind of a divine chalice to be poured into, allowing ourselves to be led. And sometimes that looks like taking an external step, like an action, but then we're not really quite sure what the result of that action will be, right? Like putting our gifts out there, for example. And it's an energetic principle that I think is highly needed for the world right now and for probably most of us listening.
It's so true that the energy of open is aligned with the energy of love, and fear is very much,
Mhm.
connected
Closed.
to the constricting and the closed and the, and the closed off too, right? And how can we remain open while also creating these boundaries, to
Yes,
to maintain our feelings of safety and comfort.
exactly.
And that's really important too. And as somebody that helps people through creativity as well, I realized that you can't be in the realm of creativity and also be closed and also be tight and also be
No.
constricted and sucking everything in. So a lot of the times we get to be in a realm of play. We get to learn how to play again. And as grown-ups, we forget that. I'm very lucky that I have my two daughters because they're constantly bringing me back into play, whether I like it or not. I don't feel like playing. I'm done with playing, but no, I'm going to be playing again. But helping my clients coming back to play, a lot of them being very high power people. No, no, there's stuff I need to do.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. And
and we
especially if
get so caught
that's,
up in that, right?
yes, and if that stuff we need to do feels really linked to our survival, even on a physical level, like this is where the survival stuff, it's impossible to be in survival and be in creativity.
No,
It's
you can't be.
impossible to be in survival and be in openness.
Yeah.
Like there's no way. And so, but there's this way in which this is such a beautiful question. Like, how do we create the safety? Like there's this way in which we do actually get to have containment and boundaries, and we do get to have choice and agency to design a life where we're getting needs met that enable for that, enable that flow and that openness to kind of occur. But that's really foundational and important, and I find that again, like a lot of this ancestral work, karmic work, different layers are sometimes needed in order to create that safety to open.
It's so, so perfect. Yeah. My question for you as well, I have one more question here around the DNA activation.
Yeah.
So how did you start doing these specifically kind of for your clients or transmissions to a greater audience? And then do you do them specifically on specific topics? Do the topics come to you? One of the things that I pulled a card for me for myself for this month, three cards, and one of them was to listen. So it said to
Mm,
listen more and to listen deeper. So I'm sure that you have found your own way of listening, and how can you
yeah.
help others understand better how to listen to divine
Oh, such a
messages?
great question. Such a good question. I mean, I think, yeah, remaining open, obviously, and creating space to listen. And I do, so when I'm working with an individual, um, I work very intuitively, but it's based on, what they're sharing that they need help with, usually, unless someone comes in and they're like, just do whatever feels best. Um, if not, like, and they have a specific issue, like let's say it's a money issue, like we're doing the session kind of focused towards money, but even within that, there's a pretty deep surrender to just whatever comes through. Like I'm not thinking about it ahead of time. I get shown what's happening and then I name it. And then it just comes through me how to release it or move the energy or what needs to be activated and woken up. It's almost entirely intuitive, like almost 100%, if not completely
Because once you start
100%.
putting on the ego cap, it'll probably go a completely different
It would
direction.
go a different direction. Yeah. Although sometimes, I mean, there's always like discernment around like, okay, this piece maybe I don't need to say out loud or like, it's
That's
like
good. Yep,
you
good
want
point.
to I'm mindful as well, right, of people's backgrounds and what they're really open for. And I don't push past certain things, right? I'm very attuned. So, but I feel that the guidance that I work with also is that way. So everything that comes through is for the highest interest of everyone, and I really do trust that. And when it comes to the collective activations, yeah, it's very fluid and spontaneous. Often, like I have a membership, they'll tell me the theme, maybe like a few days in advance or whatever, but I never know. I never know what's going to come through.
I
It's a
have a
pretty high
similar
level of trust now that I think about it.
I have a similar membership, and it's true. Like I have the set themes or the set workshops, and then when we come to the actual day, I might go off on a different direction depending on where
Yeah,
something.
totally off script. Yeah, like I was gonna do a love activation for Valentine's Day, and they were like, "This is a self-love activation. Like we're
Yeah,
doing that." And I was like, "Okay."
that's
I
amazing.
think it's so important, and this is part of where, I think the work that you're doing, Suki, is so important because female entrepreneurs, a lot of the way that we've been taught and the boxes we're supposed to fit in, and it's supposed to be this way. We were even talking about this a little bit before we started the podcast. It's like, calls need to be this length and they need to be scheduled this, and it all needs to look this way. And it's like, okay, what if that doesn't work for us? What if that's not
Feeling
being
good.
what we're
Yeah.
being guided to bring
And feeling
forward?
good is so important because
Yes.
feeling good is like the direct connection to spirit, and feeling good is the affirmation that I'm going the right way. Feeling bad equals no, I shouldn't be doing this. This doesn't feel right inside.
Yes.
And you're totally right about the female entrepreneurs, because 7 years down the line is only now when I'm realizing, oh, I don't have to do it that way.
I don't have to do that. I know.
Post on
Because isn't
social
it
media
crazy?
every day? No. If I post on social media every day, I'm done. Who's
Yeah.
posting on social media? My VAs, other people. I'm not
Yeah.
posting on social media every day,
Yeah.
because that was me. That was me doing all of the things, and
Yeah.
burning myself out time and time again. And then the same thing I realized about, like, with the burnout, you're taught by all these marketing leaders and coaches and people out there you have to launch. You got to keep launching, and before you launch, you got to do
Mm.
these like freebies, and you got to do, so what I was doing was I was doing these 3 to 5 day challenges, and then I was rushing into a launch, and then each and every single time, if I look back on each of my launches, it goes great. Suki's doing wonderful, crash. Suki's doing
Crash.
wonderful, crash.
Yes.
Because
Yes,
I would go
exactly.
straight into the burnout. And then I said, it was literally just this year, since January this year, they said, I'm not launching anymore. It's like, what? She's not launching? No, I'm not gonna launch. I like
I
from
don't
now
really I don't
on,
really launch
from
anymore
here on,
either.
I'm not launching from here on. That's is why? Because I'm on the freaking spaceship. The ship is already taken off. I don't have to
Yes.
launch
And you don't
anywhere.
need to do like what your mentor does, like
Yeah,
what this person over here does. Like they say that you need, this amount of calls in a month and Voxer and like all these other things. Like, what is it that feels in flow and in alignment for you and do that, It's going to be real different for everybody, but that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur is that we get to choose, right? And I'm still uncovering things where I'm like, oh wow, I really thought I had to do that and it turns out I don't. And
don't.
it's so
Yeah,
so liberating, so
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
But particularly if you identify as a feminine being, you have more feminine energy, really, really, really important to listen to that, to flow with inspiration and to do what works for your system and your body.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
100%.
That's just such a mirror of like, yeah, of what I've been feeling and what I've been sharing, and so I absolutely love that. The thing that I've been asking each of my podcast guests at the end is, what is one tip that you could give somebody listening today that you feel they could take away and do kind of immediately and put it into their lives right now?
Like anyone at any theme or like around what we're
Around all the
talking.
stuff that we've been talking about
Okay.
today, so I guess
Okay.
spiritual gifts and the
This
channeling
is
and
just what's coming through now, which is like always, like we were saying, this is the best. So look at what is draining your energy, even just in little ways. Look at it, even if it feels like a little uncomfortable to look at it. Like, how can you make an adjustment? That's what I'll say.
that is very, very powerful, and definitely something that I do all the time to check in and say, okay, what is working and what is not working? Told you the stuff
Yeah.
about the posting on social media. It was just not working for me and just really draining my energy. So I said, I'll do it when I feel inspired to do it. But other
Yeah.
than that, I'm not doing it. Somebody else can do it for me.
Yes. And I feel like this gets more subtle. It's constant refinement, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's things that's like, this is the other thing, is it's like maybe it's not like you're in miserable pain over it, maybe it's not you've hit that wall of burnout right already where you're like crashed out in bed, but it's just like, I just don't particularly like that.
Yeah,
It's just not fun for me. I don't love it. It feels like it takes more energy than it gives.
precisely.
Right? And so even those small places, where are you showing up for things that are like taking more energy from you than it's giving you? Because there really does need to be that harmony, in order for you to feel really resourced, nourished, like free and able to provide your gifts to the world in the highest capacity.
Oh, I love it. I've loved this conversation. It's been so spot on and exactly kind of what we need, all of us collectively right now, to hear. Yes, follow
Yeah.
your divine guidance. Yes, showcase your spiritual gifts because other people need it in the world. Yes, tune into your energy and wondering, get curious as to where your energy is leaking and where your energy is sparked for joy. So, how can
Hmm.
people get in touch with you if they want to continue to work with you or learn about you right now?
Yeah, so people can find me on Facebook as Julia Phoenix, on Instagram at Julia Phoenix 11, and 11 is spelled out like the word, not like the number. Or they can email me jp11, again, it's spelled out jp11coach at gmail.com. Love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all your wisdom and light.
Thank you, Suki.
Thank you. Until next time. Bye bye.